Hello. The year has only just begun, but book prize season has already started. There are a number of book awards which have announced their long lists and their short lists, such as the Writers' Prize, formerly the Rathbones Prize. There's the newly formed Nero Book Awards, and I know more book prizes are going to be making announcements soon. But a book prize long list that caught my attention recently is the Dublin Literary Awards, and they have a long list of 70 books. And this is a special book prize because this list of nominations is created by libraries. Even though it's called the Dublin Literary Awards, it's not just Dublin libraries, it's libraries from all over the world that have made these nominations and created this list of 70 books, some of which I've never heard of before. And I thought it would be fun, rather than going through and giving summaries of every single book on this list, because there are so many, that I would treat it more like a buffet, and I'll just look through all of these books one by one, and more just randomly, like based on the cover or the title. If I'm interested in it, I'll look up more information about it, but others I'll just pass by, because we are really spoiled for choice. And of course there are several books on this list that I have read, so I'll stop and talk about those, and there are several others which I already have copies of and that I've been wanting to read, so I'll discuss those as well. But if I don't talk about any particular book in more depth that you happen to have read or that you think I would find really interesting, please let me know about that in the comments below, and let me know how many of these books on this list of 70 you've already read, because I know for most people reading 70 books, that would be their entire reading year, or maybe even more books that they would read in an entire year. So let's start going through these just one by one and talking about them. Starting with 1000 Coils of Fear by Olivia Wenzel. And since it's the very first book, I'll look up more information about it. This does sound interesting. The description says that a young woman attends a play about the Berlin Wall coming down and is the only Black person in the audience. Engaging in a witty question and answer with herself, the narrator looks at our rapidly changing times and tells the story of her family, her mother, who was a punk in East Germany and never had the freedom she dreamed of, and her absent Angolan father. In the background of everything is the memory of her twin brother, who died when they were 19. Emotional and funny, Olivia Wenzel writes about loneliness and finding joy in life with the roles that society assigns you. 1000 Coils of Fear is a highly original novel, both powerfully poetic and full of surprises. So yeah, I do really like novels that are this kind of intense conversation with oneself and like burrowing through one's own memories. And it has quite a high rating, at least like on Goodreads, of an average of 3.91 stars. So that sounds really good. A History of the Island by Eugene Vodolazkin. A Minor Chorus by Billy Ray Belcourt. I did some time ago look at this book because I thought it sounded quite interesting, but then I saw quite a mixed review of it, and I think I'll give this book a pass. It's kind of scary sometimes, like based just on one review, you might pass up a book entirely. But if you have read this book, please let me know. Ada's Realm by Sharon Dodua Otto. An Astronomer in Love by Antoine Lorraine. Now, this novel on its cover comes with an endorsement from none other than H.M. the Queen Consort, who calls it Parisian perfection, and that just kind of tickles me a bit. I don't know why they would say that the Queen Consort. I mean, I guess they can't just say Camilla, but I mean, I know Camilla is a big reader. She's a patron of the Booker Prize. prize and all of that. But yeah, I just find it funny that it's quoted on the cover. The Her Majesty, the Queen Consort. Birnam Wood by Eleanor Catton. Now, I know a lot of people really enjoyed this novel, and I ultimately really enjoyed reading this as well, but it did take me quite a while to get into this novel. I made a whole video about my mixed feelings about this book. It was really interesting, but it took quite a while to get to the action of it and all of this in-depth character study. I found it quite a slog to wade through. Breakwater by Marieke Schermer. I did get a copy of this because I thought the story sounded kind of interesting, but I wasn't sure how engaging it was, so I just never got around to reading it. Canción by Eduardo Halfon. Chain Gang All-Stars by Nana Kwame Aje Brenya. This is a novel I have been wanting to read, and I just got it on audiobook recently. It's set in a prison about two female prisoners that engage in this gladiatorial fight and to try to get their freedom, but they're also friends and lovers. Sounds really good, and I read his debut short story collection, which I thought was really interesting. Crimson Spring by Navtej Sarna. Cricket Plow by Itamar Vieira Jr. This is a Brazilian novel that I feel slightly shameful about because I did start reading it, but then I got distracted by other books and didn't go back to it, but I've been meaning to because it's such a curious kind of mixture of realism and fantasy. It's set in a small community in Brazil, and two sisters find this knife that has magical properties under their grandmother's bed, and then strange things start occurring. Dandelion Daughter by Gabrielle Boulain Tremblay. I am partial to a cover that has an explosion of flowers on it, so I'm going to look up more about this book. Wow, this sounds really interesting. So it's a runaway bestseller in Quebec, where it has captured the hearts of readers and pushed trans identity into mainstream conversation. Dandelion Daughter is an intimate, courageous portrait of what it's like to grow up having been assigned the wrong sex at birth. It's a autobiographical novel, and it's one of the first novels of its kind to appear in Quebec. This inspiring story has already connected with a wide readership and has been adopted by many schools to help expand worldviews and curriculums. That is so cool, and it has quite an high average star rating of 4.38. Yeah, I'd definitely like to get a copy of this. Day's End by Gary Disher. This has quite a dull cover, so I think I'm gonna pass by it. Why, if it isn't Demon Copperhead by Barbara Kingsolver. Yes, it's a new year, but this novel is still getting prize attention, and I think deservedly so. I love this novel so much. I've talked about it so much. A coming-of-age tale through difficult circumstances, and it's so harrowing and powerful and beautiful. Falling Hour by Jeffrey Morrison. This has quite a plain cover, but I am intrigued, so I'm going to find out more about it. Okay, the tagline of this already has me sold. So it says, all talk, no action. The mezzanine meets Ducks Newburyport in this meandering and captivating debut. I love both of those books, The Mezzanine by Nicholson Baker. I read that entire book aloud to my partner while we were on a road trip, and we found it so funny. But also Ducks Newburyport, that great big mother quacker that I just adore. So to think of a mashup of those two books is so exciting. The description says, it's a hot summer night and Hugh Dalgarno, a 31-year-old clerical worker, thinks his brain is broken over the course of a day and night in an uncannily depopulated public park. He will sift through the pieces and traverse the Baroque landscape of his thoughts. Yeah, that just sounds great. And yeah, I'm gonna get a copy of this novel. I can't believe I hadn't heard of it before. Feast by Emily O'Grady. Hades by Aisha Zanal. Haven by Emma Donoghue. I have read a lot of Emma Donoghue's books in the past, and so I would like to get to this at some point. She is so prolific. It feels like she has a new novel every year, but often of really high quality. Hollow Bamboo by William Seto Pin. So I'm going to look up more about this novel. The hilarious and heartbreaking story of two William Pins in Newfoundland, the lost millennial and the grandfather he knows nothing about. Based on a true story, Hollow Bamboo recounts with humor and sympathy the often brutal struggles and occasional successes faced by some of the first Chinese immigrants in Newfoundland. It is a journey of heartbreak, sacrifice, brotherhood, and family ties, but most of all, it is about love and survival on the rock, drawing on elements of magical realism, autofiction, and satire, as well as deep historical research. Hollow Bamboo is a fresh an original portrayal of our past and our present, and the debut of an extraordinarily new author. That does sound really good, and yeah, it has quite a high average rating of 4.12. Human Nature by Serge Joncourt. Another novel cover that I think is quite dull. I just find like blank landscapes on a book cover quite boring. Identitti by Matthew Sanyal. If I Survive You by Jonathan Escoffrey. This is a novel or a group of interconnected short stories about a family in Florida. I did really enjoy this novel. Thought it was so interesting how it was constructed. I love these books of interconnected short stories, and I made a whole video about this book. Limberlost by Robbie Arnott. Now, this is an Australian author I've never read before, but I've always meant to read because I've heard such high praise about his book. So I would like to get to this at some point, but I actually have a couple other books by him on my shelves that I should probably read first. Lone Woman by Victor Laval. Okay, there is a figure in this otherwise stark landscape on the cover, but I'm still not quite drawn to it. Memorial 29 June by Tina Hogue. This is a novel that I thought deserved more attention last year because I really enjoyed it. I thought it was so inventive how it tells this modern woman looking back on the past of a relationship that she had, a kind of love triangle she had with a man and a female friend of hers a long time ago, but telling it in this like inventive way, using a number of styles from letters and straightforward narrative, but also text messages. Monsters Like Us by Ulrich Almit Sandig. My Father's House by Joseph O'Connor. I've never read anything by this author. Probably should at some point. My Men by Victoria Keeland. I do have a copy of this novel somewhere. I think it's about the first female mass murderer in the United States. Now I Am Here by Chidi Abere. I got a copy of this novel a while ago because I do think it sounds really interesting. It's about an officer whose army has been surrounded by troops and their death is imminent, and he's writing a confessional letter describing his entire life and everything that he has done. Old God's Time by Sebastian Barry. I did read this towards the end of last year and was completely enthralled by it. The story of a retired policeman as he's looking back on his life, but also a case which went unsolved, which comes back to the forefront and he's questioned about. The way Sebastian Barry writes is just so stunning. Open Heart by Elvira Lindo. Orgy by Gabor Zoltan. I think I'll pass by this for now. Our Missing Hearts by Celeste In. I know a lot of people have really enjoyed this novel. I did read one book by Celeste In a long time ago, and I thought it was just okay. So honestly, I haven't been that drawn to reading anything else by her. Our Share of the Night by Mariana Enriquez. I have been wanting to read this book because I have read other writing by this author and thought it was really inventive and dark and strange, but always felt a bit too much like a spectacle to me. And so I have heard from some people that this book is just kind of okay, and because it's such a long novel, I don't know if I want to commit the time to it. Pet by Catherine Chidgey. This is a novel I've been intrigued by. It's about a girl who wants to be the school pet of a charismatic new teacher, but also about a mystery that's occurring in the school when a thief starts stealing things. Set in New Zealand in the 1980s. Praiseworthy by Alexis Wright. I have been wanting to read this Australian novel, which only just came out here in the UK quite recently, but it is very long, so I'm gonna have to commit some time to it. Properties of Thirst by Marianne Wiggins. Querelle of Roberval, a Syndical fiction by Kevin Lambert. I don't know what syndical fiction means, and all I know about the name Querelle is from the Jean Genet novel, so I'm gonna look up more about this book. Oh wow, it is! So it's described as a homage to Jean Genet's anti-hero and a brilliant reimagining of the ancient form of tragedy. Querelle of Roberval, winner of the Marquis de Sade Prize, is a wildly imaginative story of justice, passion, and murderous revenge. I need to get a copy of this book. River, Sing Me Home by Eleanor Shearer. I do remember reading about this novel, and it sounds like quite a touching story, but honestly, this cover doesn't do anything for me. Rombo by Esther Kinsky. Like all Fitzcarraldo editions, this just has a blank blue cover, and I do admire that the publisher does this, of publishing these uniform covers for all their books. And I do find with Fitzcarraldo editions, their books can be very hit and miss with me. Sometimes they are absolutely brilliant, and other times I really don't get along with them, so I'm gonna pass this by for now. Schmutz by Felicia Berliner. Small Mercies by Dennis Lehane. Soldier Sailor by Claire Kilroy. I did hear such great things about this novel last year, and I do have a copy of it somewhere, about a new mother and her experiences with her newborn baby, loving her child, but also having very dark thoughts. Yes, Solenoid by Mircea Cartarescu. This was my favorite novel that I read last year, a wild and weird book about a man obsessively keeping a notebook and recording all of his thoughts and his dreams and his recollections, and sifting through all of this experience. The sentences are so intricate and filled with so much interesting information, and written in a really beautiful and sometimes quite humorous way, and it is a very long novel, so this took me so long to read. It took me longer than any other book I read last year, but it is also my absolute favorite. Stolen by Anne-Helene Lestadius. Stone and Shadow by Bernhan Sonmez. Take What You Need by Idra Novi. The Ascent by Stefan Hertmans. The Axeman's Carnival, another novel by Catherine Chidgey, her second book on the list, and I have heard that this other novel is much wilder than this one, Pet, and I did try reading a novel by Catherine Chidgey in the past. I only just remembered, but I sort of gave up on it because I wasn't really into the narrative style of it, but I would be willing to give her another try because she's obviously quite prolific. The Birthday Party by Laurence Monvignier, another novel from Fitzcarraldo editions, but I do know this is so worth reading. It does start out very slow in a French Hamlet, following the lives of a number of different characters, but it builds into something so thrilling that I was up very late reading and finishing this book because I had to know what was going to happen. The Chinese Groove by Catherine Ma, The Crane Husband by Kelly Barnhill, The Drinker of Horizons by Mia Koto, The Exhibition by Miodrag Kajtez, The Eye of the Beholder by Margie Orford, The Fire by Daniela Crien, The Ghetto Within by Santiago H. Amagorena, The Great Reclamation by Rachel Henn. I do like a really expressive cover, so I'm going to look up more about this. Set against a changing Singapore, a sweeping novel about one boy's unique gifts and the childhood love that will complicate the fate of his community and country. An aching love story and powerful coming-of-age tale that reckons with the legacy of British colonialism, the World War II Japanese occupation, and the pursuit of modernity. The Great Reclamation confronts the wounds of progress, the sacrifices of love, and the difficulty of defining home when nature and nation collide, literally shifting the land beneath people's feet. That does sound really interesting. It does have quite a high rating of an average star rating of 4.03. So yeah, I might get a copy of this at some point. The House of Fortune by Jessie Burton. I did read a novel by Jessie Burton before and really enjoyed it, but I just haven't been that drawn to reading anything else by her. The Moonday Letters by Emmy Itaranta. This cover is giving me sci-fi vibes and like in space, and I do like reading tales in space, so I'm going to read more about this. Yes, a gripping sci-fi mystery wrapped in an LGBTQIA love story that bends space, time, myth, and science. Part space-age epistolary, part eco-thriller. The Moonday Letters is also a love story between two individuals from very different worlds. I was just saying with my book club how much I love an epistolary story told in letters. So this sounds really good. I suspect for a lot of readers, you'll instantly know whether you want to try this or not. The Orphans of Amsterdam by Ellie Van Ryn. The Sleeping Car Porter by Suzette Mayer. I have been wanting to read this book, which won the Giller Prize in Canada. It sounds so interesting, following a man who works as a sleeping car porter on a train as it travels, but it also does, I think, like interesting things with time and looking at identity. The Words That Remain by Stenio Gardel. The World and All That It Holds by Alexander Hamon. I did love reading this novel set during World War I, or the very beginning of the war, with the assassination of the Archduke Franz Ferdinand, of witnessing that and following a character as he becomes a soldier and falls in love with another soldier, and the story of their gay love affair, but also their lives traveling through time, and the real harrowing experiences of war and how it flings different individuals to the far reaches of the globe. This Other Eden by Paul Harding. I did think this was a really beautiful novel about an island off the coast of Maine, and families and small group of people that are forced to leave this island after having resided there for generations and lived separate from the rules of the rest of the country. It's such an interesting story, and how he invokes the lives of these different characters in a very powerful way. I can still recall a lot of these different characters' personalities in their lives, and they kind of live vividly in my mind. Thistlefoot by Jenna Rose Nethercott. Ti Amo by Hannah Orstovic. This is a really emotional novella about a woman whose husband has a terminal illness and this gradual process of letting go. It is absolutely heartbreaking and gets into all of the complicated emotions of it. I've read 2 books by Hannah Orstovic. I think she's a really powerful writer, that she can compress so much about life into such a short book. is really incredible. Tomorrow and Tomorrow and Tomorrow by Gabrielle Zevin. It's great to see this getting some more prize attention. It did win a Books Are My Bag award last year, and I know it's a much beloved novel about friendship over a long period of time, but also gaming. And I found this such a nostalgia trip for me, but also it's a really beautiful tale about love of between friends. When We Were Fireflies by Abu Bakr Adam Ibrahim. Since this is the last book on this list of 70 books, I will look up more about it. When brooding artist Yarima Lalo encounters a moving train for the first time, two serendipitous events occur. First, it triggers memories of past lives in which he was twice murdered, once on a train. He also meets Aziza, a woman with a complicated past of her own, who becomes key to helping him understand what he is experiencing. With a third death in his current life imminent, together they go hunting for remnants of his past life. Will they find evidence that he is losing his mind of the people who once loved or loathed him? This sounds very complicated. It does have a very high average star rating of 4.59, but that's only based on 44 ratings. So yeah, sounds quite interesting, but I'm not sure if I'm going to get to that anytime soon. So there we have the 70 books on the Dublin Literary Award long list. Yes, we are spoiled for choice. Let me know what you think about any of these books, if you have read them or if you're interested in reading any of them now. This long list will be whittled down to no more than 10 books by a panel of judges, and then the winner will receive 100,000 euros. Quite a big award pot. I think it's one of the most wealthy book prizes in the world. So, a prize worth winning and worth watching out for. I'm going to be really curious to see which of these books wins, but also to read some more of these books, hopefully before that announcement. So I hope you enjoyed this look through this long list of books, and that you're reading good things, and I will speak to you again soon. Bye-bye.